All right, we're live, guys. Wow, this has been an amazing journey for me. Guys, I just want to say I'm so inspired by your project, who you guys are, and also to be able to connect my following to people that understand this space of cryptocurrency and blockchain and all the different things happening right now, the huge opportunity and opportunism, the sort of like hype, as well as the fundamental value proposition that creating, if you will, a people's internet would do for the world at a moment when we're seeing all around us the type of censorship that we probably couldn't have dreamed occurring in our lives, because it's very reminiscent of what happened to our grandparents and former wars. It's just really remarkable. So having found your project, thanks in large part to Mike, who I know because I've been a big fan of your work out there with Alphabetic. So of course, when I pass it to you, please do a little intro for yourself, because you're one of those people that lives the dream of sustainability, not in the UN sense of the term. We're talking about real, authentic, regenerative living, where you are just truly breathing and just walking the earth with these principles. And that to me is super inspiring. And then of course I met Jason through you, and now it's been 2 weeks, Jason, of nonstop communication. Yeah, because when I get into something, my inspiration, it just feeds me, and I just, on some level, get totally obsessed with things to try to see, is this really true? Could this really be as amazing as I think it is? So I did my due diligence, guys, and the people that are on this live stream, I'm so excited, because while I'm the founder of GreenMed Info, and I've had my own narrative around deplatforming, so you could say, okay, this is about how we can all not get deplatformed, and yes, it does have to do with that, but it has to do with something that is so much more inspirational for me, and that I think is gonna probably just jack up your excitement about where we are right now, which is gonna be really healing, because we are in a dark window, but just like birth, you go through a really dark and life-threatening passage, and we are now seeing the light. So what I'm saying is that Qortal, the project we'll be discussing, is one of a number of projects that is driven by extremely ethical energy. And that is why I'm so excited about it. So I think the listeners can make their own judgments, and they'll pick up, your energy and your expertise, and then together we'll see where this goes. So I know that's a pretty, sloppy intro, but I do want people to know that this is happening because I'm inspired, and I want you guys to know about this project. So
it's been great. It's been great since we've been talking every day. I've been into it. You've been asking all the right questions and getting into it. I've just been stoked to talk to you every day. So it's been awesome. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, the feeling is mutual, brother, because right now, I mean, again, we're seeing the market in crypto exploding, and we're seeing like all this enthusiasm, and everyone's like, do I invest? And is this real? Is the blockchain going to kill us? Like I have Allison, which honestly, there's definitely truth to that too. It's being weaponized. And that's even the internet started out as a military project. So that's why having a discussion with you guys on a deep philosophical level, but then also going granular, is going to be super exciting. So get your non-GMO popcorn, sit down, get ready, strap in, because hopefully this will be really exciting for you. So I'll start and pass it to you first, Mike, since you introduced me, and then you can go ahead and pass it on, and we'll get some really deep questions answered here.
Well, hey, thanks, Sayer. It's such a pleasure to be on with you. Been following your work for years, being in the alternative health realm, and it's just been such a wild ride with Qortal and with crypto in general. And I like to stay away from the term crypto. I feel like that's really become kind of institutionalized in itself. And what we've seen since the white paper from Satoshi Nakamoto, we've seen what always happens with these systems. It seems like things get controlled, co-opted, centralized, and put right back into the box of what they were trying to counter in the first place. So we like to call this a decentralized blockchain project. At least that's what I like to call it. What's beautiful about this project is like nobody owns it, right? So I can call it what I foresee it to be, and then Jason can call it something else, and then tech can call it something else, and other developers and people that are involved. So, but that's what's so beautiful about it. But I really like the idea of it being called like a decentralized blockchain project. There is a coin aspect to it, of course, which we'll talk about, which is extremely important. But the crypto world has really become like Wall Street 2.0 in some ways. It's really been co-opted. It's really been, it's become its own thing unto itself. And, you know, it is definitely more empowering than the controlling paradigm of the bankster elites. But there is caution. We have to throw caution to the wind here and see like what is happening right now with projects like Ethereum, with the whole 2017 ICO boom and what that created. And we'll go into that because I think it's important to discuss that stuff. But that's also not to say that we are maximalists in any way, that we don't see the need for cooperation and collaboration with other decentralized projects. Like, that's extremely important as well. My background is interesting because I don't come from a fintech background or come from financials. I don't come from even necessarily really tech. I've been an underground house DJ throwing raves for 20 years. Like, I've been involved in anarchy. I've been involved in philosophy and in the entertainment industry. And then, of course, myself, Dr. Berlando, who you're familiar with, Sayer, who we've interviewed you on our podcast, and our partners. We started Alpha Vedic about, 6 years ago as a new model for sustainable agriculture, commerce, and health and wellness. And we are radicals. We are undaunting in our approach to our radicalism and to our viewpoints about decentralization, about health and wellness. I mean, like, one of the big foundational principles behind Alpha Vedic is that we deny the ideas of germ theory. I mean, how radical can you get, right?
Pretty radical.
And so that in turn, that's my nature. That's like, I've been that way since I was a kid. Like, I never felt very comfortable in this realm, in this world. My whole life, I always felt a little bit like an outcast, like I was trying to fit in. I never got the idea of why money is the way it is. It just always seemed very odd to me. And of course, you look at a dollar bill and you see the all-seeing eye, and it's just like, what is going on here? And really, the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, really kind of shattered my whole perception of what money is. In the late 90s, I was in college and I was recommended that from my father. And then later, Dr. Lando reiterated the importance of that book. And we were literally just talking about this book on our podcast yesterday. Again, we did a whole podcast on the trivium quad, on the importance of seeing reality through logic. And we have to use these principles more than ever right now to see through all the nonsense that's going on in crypto itself too. But, you know, without getting off too much of a tangent, that book really showed, not only did it give the beautiful narrative of how money in U.S. and in the world has been co-opted by these elites, who is essentially a large Ponzi scheme, by taking us off the gold standard and by essentially privatizing how money is created through fractional reserve banking and all the funny money stuff that goes on in the world, and how it's evolved to where it is now, to where it's just like a massive Ponzi, right? That's literally built upon the backs of every person who's born on this planet. Is the actual is the value metric for the current fiat dollar, and it's essentially neo-feudalism. And so coming out of that perspective is like, that's daunting, right? That's, you start to see this and you're like, oh my God, like, how could we ever get out of this? It's such a large behemoth. It's a Leviathan. And so basically I got into anarchy, and I got into alternative thinking, and I really enjoyed a lot of the cypherpunk stuff that was coming up in the 90s, and was really into that kind of, if you remember that, what was that movie, Hackers, and that kind of mentality. I know Jason, probably this was him as a kid. And like, as a kid, I had friends, we would like hack our calculators and make video games in them. And like, I remember getting on the first boards on the internet where you had you know, I'm old, I'm 42 years old. So I was there in like 6th, 7th grade, where you had the foam dial-up modem, where, you know, you would get into a board, and that was like the original internet before CompuServe, before AOL, and before the service providers. And that's something we should talk about too today, of course. And that was always like really cool. I'm like, whoa, we're like connected to these other people in this new realm where we can nerd out and talk about this stuff. And it wasn't controlled by anybody, right? It was just us using a protocol to connect.
Yes.
So anyways, fast forward to the 2008, 2009 financial collapse and the the white paper and stuff. I caught on to that pretty early because I was really into that scene. But, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, partying, throwing raves, like I was saying, doing events, trying to be a reality TV producer and stuff like that. And I was like, that's really cool. I support it, but I don't have time to get into the tech. And then fast forward a little farther, I got into web development. I started integrating Bitcoin into some early e-commerce solutions. And I started doing some mining. But once again, really busy and I'm kicking myself for not getting right into it right away. But it wasn't really until about 2013 when I started really researching blockchain and into these other protocols like Peercoin, Jason, NXT, and these early innovators where I was just like, whoa, not only is Bitcoin amazing with proof of work, but the immutable concept of a blockchain, of a true decentralized distributed blockchain was everything to me. It was like what the Egyptians did with the pyramids. It was like, what's what we're needing? Because I was going down a lot of rabbit holes of truth at that time.
Okay, so hold that one thought, because see, the thing is that most people that are from the Greenman Info following don't actually even know very basic terms, and even the experts can debate actually on what those terms mean. So I want to give a little insight to the listeners as to why you would be so inspired. And also, by the way, anarchy just literally means without external rule, like the power over principle, right? So some people listen to that, they'll be like, wow, what is anarchy? Because the way it's been weaponized against people that are volunteerists or believe in self-sovereignty is that, oh, they're anarchists, they're trying to burn down Starbucks, and that's how the media projects it. That's not what that's about, just so people understand.
That's actually a result from statism, usually. Burning down stuff is actually a result from centralization, usually, but you're spot on.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, the disparities built into the system, the inequality, all that is actually being rectified now by projects like we are talking about. So like, I want to give people a little bit more context, because I think that a listener might actually be challenged at this point. Given your incredible background, I understand what it means, but I just want more of a basic framework for the discussion. So, for example, right now, we have the dilution of the entire monetary system, right, through quantitative easing. Trillions of dollars being printed out of nothing, fiat, and it is causing taxation and or theft from every existing dollar. So there's a flight into assets like crypto, which is what we're seeing. But there's a dark side to that. As you said, there's a Wall Street 2.0 effect, and there's a lot of scam coins or just attempts to get easy capital. And that's one of the things that court solves. So I'm not trying to interrupt you, because I feel like I want you to complete your full story of how you got to this point. But keep in mind, some people here are going to have no idea what we're talking about. So so go ahead.
Well, I think what was so empowering to me coming from, and I think a lot of your viewers are people who like to do self-research and find the truth, right? That's why a lot of people are attracted to you, because through health and wellness, that's one way that people really wake up, is when they get sick and they go to allopathic practitioners, or they go to the traditional, solutions that are provided them, and they don't work. And they're like, why are these not working? Why is this the understood consensus in the mainstream that I should go to this doctor who's going to give me this pill that's going to fix me, and I'm getting sicker? And then that basically is an amazing way that a lot of people start to realize, whoa, this world is not what we're told when we're, going to school, public school, or what we see on the television, and all of that. And that was kind of where I was coming from as somebody who was really looking for truth. I was having problems even back then in 2012, 2013. I was like, whoa, even back then we were seeing manipulation of data via these, Google was already, of course, a monstrosity, right? And I saw that they were already back then really manipulating search queries. We were seeing censorship back then already even on platforms like YouTube. And it was really worrying to me. And then when I came across NXT was one of the first projects that I came across, but actually Qortal has some relationship to a little bit of that functionality, a little bit in mentality and concept. But it was a really interesting project applying a decentralized blockchain and assets. And I was just like, whoa, this idea of a blockchain. And I'll explain want me to just explain in my terms what a blockchain is?
Well, even before that, even the notion of decentralization, some people may not understand how basic this concept is. So I'll just do a summary right now. So basically, in a nutshell, what we're doing or trying to do with the decentralized web and with Qortal is to take away the middleman between transferring information from one person to another, peer-to-peer. So when that information is transferred through any device out there, except for what I understand Qortal's already done with their Q chat, it's being captured. It's being vacuumed into some data center, probably owned by corporation or government or fascist merger of the two. And it will be eventually either turned into capital or weaponized against individuals. So we live in a omnipotent surveillance state, and our data is being harvested and weaponized against us. Then you have the exchange of value peer-to-peer. And right now you need a third party, a trusted third party, a bank or whoever, a centralized exchange that you give up your custody of your value, your coin for even a microsecond. It's not yours. And then that is how transactions happen. You guys have solved that problem too through atomic swaps, blockchain to blockchain or coin to coin swapping. That's revolutionary.
And actually, we were the first ones to do that. And we call it ours. Our smart contract that does the trades is called ACCT, and we were the first ones to come up with the atomic term. It was actually Siam developers who have contributed on our code base, came up with the term atomic cross-chain trade, right? And that's what ACCT is, and that's what we use. And then the term atomic swap actually came out of the term atomic cross-chain trade, and they adapted it and called it atomic swap. Either way, it's a similar idea as far as what's being done, where the value is literally traded directly from one blockchain to another with no centralized party in between.
Well, this is exactly what I do, and I do with my wife here, which is in medicine, we're trying to take the doctor or pharma, right, the third middleman out of the picture. We can heal. We don't need an intermediary. The placebo effect, nocebo effect acts as that surrogate. That's also true for the church. We want a direct connection with God. We don't need a scripture or a priest to do that for us. The same thing is happening here in the information space. And in many ways, like when I talked to Jason recently, it's like kicking the money changers out of the temple, literally, by taking away the ability or the need to use a centralized exchange. You guys are doing this, and that's why you'll get it, folks. I know, there's 1,100 people here, all from around the world. I love that, because this is the mycelium right here that we're talking about growing. But I don't want to interrupt you any further, Mike, and I definitely want you to switch it over to Jason too.
Yes.
And so please.
what I was trying to do was get to where I met Jason. So basically, what I saw was like, we have massive centralized server farms that are controlled by megacorps that are basically now dictating politics, dictating our lives. And I was like, well, how can we counter that? And I was always racking my brain about that for a long time, because I remember a video I saw in 2002 about Google's on, or 2003 about Google's on. It was done from a university, and it was like saying in the future Google and Amazon would combine and run the world. And this was in 2003. This video came out. And I was scaring the hell out of me. And so then I came across blockchain and this idea that you could have the public have an immutable truth machine that would get all the middlemen out, all the guys that come in and want to manipulate truth or manipulate reality for their own purpose, which is what humanity has been facing for thousands of years. Right, the kings, the royals, up to now the Rothschilds or whatever you want to call them, right? So the governments. So that's when I was like, the light went off, and I was up every night till 4 a.m. researching blockchain, every protocol, every consensus algo. And fast forward, I developed an algo that and we can get into this. I saw problems with proof of work, which is the
hold on a second, because honestly, even when you guys started talking to me about algos, I didn't even know what that meant.
Okay.
Right. So, but and also I want to affirm what you're saying, which is that because people don't understand, blockchain is being bandied about like cholesterol-free packaging or whatever. And what we need to understand is this truth machine And that's where you're hitting a really important point that people need to understand, is that, in accounting, there's like double, book entry, and blockchain's like triple book entry. In a nutshell, it means that there is an aspect to it that is immutably present for the whole world to see. It can't be changed or shoved down a memory hole, which is what's happening with the Orwellian Ministry of Truth process we're seeing right now. So I just want people to understand that that's what you're talking about in the positive sense of blockchain, because then people will understand, okay, this isn't just about Bitcoin and crypto. This has to do with information and all the other things you were saying.
Yeah. And basically, there is no the blockchain. People like to say, especially in the truth movement, well, they're going to use the blockchain to enslave us all. There is no the blockchain. Blockchain is just a new technology. It's a technology within this polarity matrix that can be used for evil. It can be used for great good. And I know Jason will explain more of this and what led down to his way of seeing how blockchain can be used. But I want to get to Jason real
quick. And if you could answer, either one of you, the fact, or let me just say that you guys have what I think is one of 5 unique blockchains. So just so people understand that it's not infinite blockchains. Bitcoin is a blockchain, and then Qortal is a blockchain. It was written de novo from code. Is that right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. There are only a few platforms that are actually written from scratch. Bitcoin being the first one. Then there was NXT, BTS, EOS, and a couple others. Right. But Qortal is one of the only ones that's written from scratch. And we did that with intent. Like, we didn't just do it because, we wanted to write this from scratch because we're going to do the same things over again, but we're going to do them, slightly differently. No, we had to do it from scratch because there was nothing else that existed that could do what we ultimately wanted to do. And the only way that we could make that happen was to literally come up with the concepts and write it all from scratch. And there were multiple contributors from all over the world that have contributed towards this code base over the years. And we've been in development for a very long time. And we were finally able to realize these goals and launch the project back in June. So it's something that has been ongoing for a very long time, and something that we wrote from scratch for a very good reason, to address some of the core level concerns, even with the Bitcoin and other blockchains that are out there. With the way that they're run, they can lead back to being centralized again. And that's what we're seeing now with Bitcoin and Ethereum, is the re-centralization of something that was intended to be decentralized. And when we say decentralized, we mean that everyone independently can verify everything by communicating to their own computer and not communicating to the outside world, to a central server that does any sort of verification. All the verification is done in a completely distributed way. So everyone can independently verify everything.
Yes. Jason, did you want to explain in your simplest ways what a blockchain is? Because I saw that question come up. I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, all a blockchain is a database that's encrypted and distributed out to everyone. So everyone can independently verify all the transactions and stuff that's going on top of that database. It's a secure, unstoppable, immutable ledger that's shared between everyone, so that every individual party can verify everything on their own without the need of a centralized party to verify it, right? So that's essentially what it is on a base level. It's just an unstoppable database that's shared between everyone, fully encrypted, but yet also shows all the transactions and all the things that are happening on that chain to every individual person for independent verification on their own machine. So that makes any sense at all?
Yeah, for those out there, basically the word trustless, permissionless, that's really helpful, because every other situation, you have to trust that, for example, Telegram or Facebook or WhatsApp isn't just sucking that information and giving it to some person that doesn't like you or wants to take away your rights or something else. That's a trust-based system. What happens with the QChat version is that you guys have taken the blockchain you've created and put through what's called an unconfirmed transaction. So the information is passed through, so you're chatting, and yet no one but those two people will ever see that information, right?
Correct.
And no one can have access to it. And that's an amazing accomplishment that if you were a startup in Silicon Valley, you'd say, this is $1 billion worth of code, people, pay us.
Right. Even just QChat. Yeah, that's just one plugin inside of the UI that uses the backend technology and allows for real-time communications that is still verified by the blockchain because it is a transaction,
Yeah.
But it's an unconfirmed transaction, which is issued without the need for a transaction fee entirely, because we use a POW algo in memory to actually hash before using the transaction. So you can send the messages for free with no transaction fee, and it's not confirmed. So that message will disappear after 24 hours and it's gone forever, right? So yeah, it's something that's totally unique. Ours is the only communication system that does that. And with the two parties in that communication, there is no way to decrypt it unless you have the keys to that account. So it's literally only able to be seen by those
unless
two
you
parties.
have like a quantum computer and you devote all of its power to that one message.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
even then, yeah, like it's not possible to decrypt
So
the information.
Can I know, Sayer, so backing up the algo question, right? I think this will play into what a blockchain is because it's really important to understand this. So how do you have a mutable ledger stacking blocks? That's what makes it immutable, because the more blocks that get stacked, the more immutable that this piece of information, whether that be a transaction, some data, whatever on there is. And that's what's another brilliant aspect to the stacking of blocks, right? And so how does that work? Well, it relies on consensus. It relies on people in the network saying, we agree that that's the truth in that block before it gets set. And so Satoshi Nakamoto, the brilliant thing that the white paper for Bitcoin developed was a consensus algorithm protocol to basically stop people from faking that out, saying, a bad actor, let's say, saying, I say it's this truth, and someone saying this truth, it's what they call the double spend problem with digital money. And so the proof of work was the original algorithm that would beautifully solve this problem. And I know Jason and I both see immense value in proof of work and see it as an important aspect to crypto. And Jason explains proof of work well. Maybe Jason, if you want to explain that, so people that are totally new to this, because this is technically what mining is,
right,
for the most part.
So the process, the process of creating new blocks, which all a block is the next 10 minutes on a chain, or on Bitcoin's chain. We'll talk about Bitcoin just to make it easier, right? So on Bitcoin's chain, the block time is 10 minutes. All the transactions that take place in that 10 minutes get secured in a block, right? And with proof of work, you're constantly cranking numbers, hashing SHA-256, trying to add that with the difficulty and come out with the longest number with 13 zeros at the beginning, basically. It's like winning a lottery, right? You compete in Bitcoin with that power. So the people with more power are more likely to win, and the winners get the reward from the block, and they also get all the transaction fees that happened in that block. Now, see, that's one thing where it's really cool and it works, but the original idea behind Bitcoin was that people were supposed to be able to mine on their own computer at their own house. The problem is there's really, really intelligent people in the world, and they took that algorithm and made it run faster on graphics cards. So you could put a bunch of graphics cards in one computer now, and that runs a lot faster than one CPU. Then they took it a step further, and they have a single device, a big device like this called a miner. It takes 1,500 watts of power running 24/7. And all that thing does is crank out numbers and try to find Bitcoin blocks, right? And so that's cool and also not cool at the same time, because now that allows for somebody to come in with a bunch of capital, buy up a huge amount of these machines, like we've seen in the huge mining farms in Canada and huge mining farms in China, and they can run and basically take a large percentage of those blocks. And since the block signer, the person who finds the block, is the one who actually gets all the payment from that block, they can then own not only the value of the coin, but also the consensus and decisions, because the decisions are actually made by the mining power on Bitcoin. So when there's a new a change that wants to be made to the code in Bitcoin, there's actually two forks that you can choose to mine towards. You'll mine towards this decision, or you'll mine towards this decision. So if you control the majority of the mining power on the Bitcoin network, you actually control the future of the network itself, which people don't really quite understand. They tie mining in with just making money, which is, yes, that's one part of it. That's just the rewards part of it. The important part of mining is the security and the decisions of the future of the network. So if you think about it like that, and you say, okay, well, people with all of this mining power now, they literally control the future of Bitcoin. And now think about it like that, and you're like, oh wow, now this is a much bigger issue than we thought. Like POW, yes, it's decentralized, right? Because in theory, like getting all of that enough power to be 51% of the network to where they could actually cause a problem, in theory, that's really difficult to do, right? But there are so many people in the world with massive amounts of capital. They can continue throwing capital into getting more mining hardware, and then they will inevitably control a larger percent of the consensus and decision making of that chain, right? So
Jason,
that is one of the main problems with POW.
That's brilliant explanation. It's like lucid. So can you help explain then, in a nutshell, then why you developed minting and how that's different? And by the way, guys, for me, this was the most exciting part of the project, because I mean, just in a nutshell, tell me if I'm wrong, you're basically an equitable distribution or sharing of the value of the coin produced, and you get access to it by participating. It's a participatory universe. It's not more miners, more coins have more influence.
Right.
And that's where you have inverted the paradigm and the pyramid of power.
We've done two things that are really key in understanding why the minting system of Qortal is better than other algorithms that exist, right? The first thing we did is we decoupled the whole need to find the block in order to be rewarded. So removing that coupling of finding the block to be rewarded means that instead of only the block signer getting rewarded, everyone in the network who is being a minter at the time, which is just keeping your node synced and online with a minting key assigned, proving it's your node, which then signs you in basically online to the block, every block, right? The only way that you can get into becoming a minter is by getting sponsored and talking to somebody who's a level 5 or higher, or a founder, getting a sponsorship, proving yourself to the network. Then you can enter your own minting key and you're off to the races all on your own, right? So we'll get into a few different things. But first, decoupling of the rewards from the block signer means that there's no more competition. All the minters work together. This is really, really cool because it also makes it so that you cannot pool the power, because the power is already pooled, basically. To remove the ability to pool the mining power, you make it so that the mining power is already pooled. So then if it's already pooled, you can't pool something that's already pooled, right? So every minter in Qortal is rewarded every block, regardless of who the block signer is. Now that makes it so that there's no competition for reward. You're a minter. The only way that you can get more reward is by dedicating your time for a longer period of time and leveling up in the system to get to a higher level. Now, that's another thing that we've added that no other system has, is a leveling system. The minters of the network will prove themselves to the network, signing themselves online every block with a signature that's put into every block. And as they do that, they increase in blocks minted on their accounts. And as they do that, their account level increases. As their level increases, that's how you get more reward. So the longer you've been proving yourself a legitimate minter on the network, the more you will get in reward, and the more your influence is then in the voting on the platform, which will decide the future. Like Bitcoin's voting is done with the mining. Ours is done by literal vote of leveled users who have been contributing their time. And the longer you've been doing that, the higher vote weight you have. Right?
Okay, cool. So, let me then just pause and reflect in all, because people need to really, I think, understand better why this is such a departure from every single, and there are thousands of them now, coins and token projects out there, because every other project, from what I understand, is going to have a concentration and distribution of wealth, power, influence that reproduces the global system that we're all right now under the boot of. And when you participate, you're actually adding to the network's growth and evolution. And by doing so, you've now established that you have, proven that you should be able to vote on its direction in the future. And real quick, folks, this is what this is. It's like a primary base layer of the new internet. Just like Bitcoin's the primary base layer of a new financial system. It's the new gold, right? And then maybe it'll be collateral for other forms of money in the future. But what this is doing, let's say that after QChat is out there, which it is now, we develop a Telegram-like function out of that, and social media and hosting websites. That's all in the plan of Qortal. You will actually, maybe someone likes your content, they share it. Instead of Facebook harvesting that and then weaponizing it and then de-boosting you in the future to take all your energy, you get a say based on the voting of others as to what role you play in the community. It's a very, if you will, biomimetic, organismic unfolding. And it's because you've designed the code ethically from the outset with the intention of creating a participatory universe where actually everyone's not only minting, co-creating the network like a mycelium, but they get actual coins. They share in potlatch style, you know, with a share of the coin.
We start with abundance. We're giving coins out to everyone.
Thank you.
Can
I was
become
just
a minter
gonna
for free, right? You don't have to give us anything. You don't have to buy any coin. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is come in and talk to somebody who can sponsor you, become sponsored, and you're on your own. Like, that's all you need to do. As much contribution as you need to make, then you can begin to prove yourself and earn yourself a higher vote weight and earn yourself more reward over time. It's all based on your contribution over time in multiple ways, but the first way and the only way that exists right now to level up in the system is minting. So we needed the network to grow. The way we needed to do that is by establishing a network of nodes that are full nodes on the network. And by doing that, you can be a minter, right? You assign a key that proves that this node is yours, then that node communicates to the network on your behalf and signs you in every block, and you get another block minted, which increases your level and increases your influence on the network. It's literally meant to be based on contribution to the network or some other method of contribution, like you were saying with social media and stuff like that. When we do get the next phases in data storage, we will be able to reward literal good content creators. So if you get good upvotes on your content, that means that people like you, and you can level up in the system that way as well. There are going to be multiple different leveling methods. Right now, the only one that exists is minting, because we're trying to grow the network. We're trying to establish it, get it out further. And so we needed the minting system in order to do that.
And can I say one thing, Sarah?
Sure.
Yeah.
So proof of work is based on the old competition scarcity model that runs most of the world. Right? It was what capitalism is. And really what capitalism can also be, because capitalism we know is a co-opted term by those that are against it, really. We're talking about free markets here, right? We're talking about actual free market abundance. And so the problem with that scarcity model is that it will always squeeze out people in the end. And it will be those who have the power that can manipulate and control it. And that's what we've seen for thousands of years. What we want to embrace is the new whole definition of what money is and what reality is based on abundance. And that all humans should be able to live in abundance. And how's that done? That's done through a more holistic-minded economic model of cooperation and collaboration. And this is what I was just like so blown away when Jason and the team were talking about this when I reached out to him, because I was working on an algorithm called proof of experience, which is something we can talk about a little bit, because that can be integrated. I still want to do that.
I want to build that still.
And that can be integrated into the social media aspect and into the next layers, because we have voting and we have the ability to update the code base as a community. We can integrate new innovative ideas into this so that it's a constantly growing, evolving ecosystem too, which is super important to understand, because Bitcoin in many ways is not that. And that's important too, because it's a really hard legacy
Someone
chain.
was asking, how are they going to control it? And if you're talking about POW, literally all they have to do is buy more miners than most people. And that's not really difficult. If you're sitting on trillions of dollars, you can buy as many miners as you want. And so that's the thing with Qortal. The main thing that I wanted to make sure that was never possible was direct influence via monetary means. You cannot come into Qortal just because you have a bunch more money than somebody else and get more influence than somebody else. It is not possible to do that. The only way that you can get influence in Qortal's network is by doing the same thing that everyone else, including the founders, have to do to get rewarded. The founders, the only way they can get rewarded is by minting just like everyone else. So if the founders decided to not mint, they're not going to level up. And eventually when people get to level 10, they could actually be more influential than the founders. So it's literally based on your contribution.
And anybody can mint on anything. You can mint on like
Raspberry Pi 4. Yeah.
A 2001 laptop. You could use a solar panel on a Raspberry Pi in the middle of nowhere and mint. As long as you have internet access.
Amen. Preach it, brother.
And soon that won't be a problem either.
I mean, I honestly get very evangelical about this, the energy, because, it goes back to the basis of what it means to be human. people can't get their mind around, myself included initially, that what, I can produce my own money.
Yep.
I mean, we know historically
With
presidents
a tiny computer like this size, it fits in the palm of my hand and runs on 5 watts of power on a little tiny solar panel. You can do it. Yeah.
Well, the point
I'm
is
minting
that,
I'm minting on this thing right here.
Yeah.
well, my point is actually different in a way, but I appreciate that because people need to understand the technicalities. This is a really amazing thing you just showed them, because you can even run it off a phone in the future, all that stuff. You know, the point though is they have taken presidents out literally for trying to make it possible for basic Americans to produce their own money. Like, what's the Federal Reserve? You know, it's a way of taking everyone's capital and value from them and intermediating these peer-to-peer relationships. You know, we can't barter everything, but we can produce court through our own participation. And that money is completely different from anything else in this space. You know, the way it was designed, the intention, and what it will be used for. And anyone can participate in that. And I love that so much. It's
and
really,
money doesn't make a difference. We don't care whether you have enough money to buy a tiny Raspberry Pi 4 or you have a $20,000 desktop computer that you're going to run this on. It makes no difference to the network. The network doesn't care whether you have a minting key assigned to this node over here or this one over there that's running on this machine or that big one. It really doesn't matter. So that's the thing, is that it's getting rid of the need for you to be already wealthy in order to come in and start earning coin. Like on most other networks, if you want to actually be a legitimate miner on a network and you're going to want to actually make a decent amount of money, you're going to have to invest at least a couple $1,000s into a machine that has 7 graphics cards. And then even then, you're probably not going to make all that much because you're going to be paying most of your money back out to the power company because you're running 2,000, 2,500 watts all day long. So it's like that we realize that system just leads to centralization again.
Well, and let me,
you know,
well, let me just remind people that, again, the ethical imperative here is so strong, because you look at Ethereum, which people that don't know about the basic history of it don't realize that the founders gave themselves large amounts of the original capital, a coin. And that's going on all over this space. And
well, they were issued as an ICO. So
like an initial coin offering. So
that's another thing that we didn't do. Everything was started from zero. Our chain started from zero and was minted from zero from the beginning.
So
and no corporation behind it. There's no CEOs. There's no boards.
Owned. Everyone owns it.
So guys, once again, the ethos represented by Satoshi Nakamoto, if he is truly an anonymous person or group of developers like yourself, because there are other developers that will not be named intentionally so, because there's a certain aspect of risk around being public. I know that myself, because this was intended to develop really a solution to what is presently descending upon all of us in terms of crushing our freedom, the economic warfare that has been distributed across the planet under the auspices of COVID-19. It's a way of imploding the substrate for sovereignty, is to take away one's wealth. You either dilute it away through money printing, or you create a system where you don't actually own anything. In this situation, though, you guys decided not to give yourself any reward. In fact, what actually happened was that Jason, you and others put literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of your own money into this anonymous project that, by the way, folks, it's unstoppable in the sense that unless they take the power away or the devices that everyone has in their homes, they cannot put an end to this project. That is the beauty of it.
Similar to most blockchains, is that once they're running, they cannot be stopped.
No.
So there's no way you can stop a blockchain, especially Qortal's blockchain, since anyone can be a minter. Like, it takes one node to continue running the chain. So as long as there's one node on the network, it will run. And the only way that they can stop it is to stop all communications. And in the future, that won't be a problem either. Once we get enough adoption of this, we do plan to have mesh networking and satellite communications so that we don't even have to have an internet connection to communicate over the Qortal network. So that's going to be a little bit down the line, but yeah.
So that's a big deal too, folks. When I first heard about mesh networks, this was like a long time ago. I was like, that is amazing. They could hit the kill switch on the internet, which in this life, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't experience a little bit of that. And this is a backup system run by the people, for the people. Does that sound familiar?
Absolutely.
Literally embedded within this initial code is an ethical energy. I was actually going to use this phrase, there's the cypherpunks, but it's like cipher theologians or cipher philosophers, right? At this point, this is
cipher shamans.
Cipher shamans, because so code, I mean, you could read the Bible and any sacred text, and it's simply code, especially in the Western languages. It's like alphanumeric, arbitrary signs. There's no inherent intrinsic meaning there, but you've taken ones and zeros in this project and you vivified it with a type of energy that to me actually feels like, okay, there's abundance built in, there's a community, there's sharing, there's an intention around evolving to a better place. Like, to me,
we wanted the original decentralization concepts to be real. We like the idea of everyone being able to run it all on their own computer. We like the idea of everything being totally individually sovereign. And there's not anything out there that does it until Qortal. Like they just don't quite get there.
We respect natural law. Natural law is inherently decentralized. It's where we need to get back to. It's why we're here on the first place. And I think in the truther movement, which you and I, much more than Jason, is more just deep tech guy, but we are in like the truther movement. There's a big kind of questioning of this, like this is like, the dark kind of future of transhumanism that we're being forced into that will be run by the blockchain. And a lot of people fear this stuff. They fear the ones and zeros. And for me, I see it as liberating. I feel like as long as we're decentralized, we can evolve to a place where this technology can allow us to be so connected and in a way that is holistically minded so that we can be free to be the true divine creators on this planet we want to be.
Right. I don't want people forced into day jobs and nonsense anymore. Sorry, not to interrupt you, but that's the whole idea is we want them to be able to do what they love, not to have to do something because that's the only way that they can afford their house and nonsense, like it's just.
But my other point is I don't want to go back to the 1800s. I'm agrarian in approach. Like, I'm a farmer and I like all that stuff, but I also feel like one thing I always loved about the Star Wars movies is they had some tech helping them out. Yeah. They were like in tune with the Force, and they were in tune with the organic nature of their connection with Gaia and with the planets. But they also had really cool kind of analog technology that was integrated in. And maybe in the future, we do have a less digital and more analog technology that's more based. I know this is getting woo-woo, but this is how we think. We are radicals. We are not in the typical crypto mindset of the industry. We are seeing things in a way. Our goal here is we didn't start this project to make money and it's why we did an ICO. We're not on any centralized, we're on like one centralized exchange.
Because they took it upon themselves. Yeah.
But that's the other thing is like, how do we get in this project? Where do we buy the coin? That's what's problem with crypto. It's like, how can I buy this coin? And we're like,
and that causes a lot of projects to die because they're listed on centralized exchanges only, and a decentralized project listed only on a decentralized exchange or only on centralized exchanges makes no sense. You have to use something centralized, even though your platform and everything else is totally decentralized. That makes no sense to me. So you
can see how deep this gets, Sarah. Mm-hmm. Like, we could be doing weekly fireside chats on this stuff.
I would like to. Actually.
Very philosophical.
I'm for it.
Well, we have a lot of questions in the secular realm, and I obviously want people to know about how they can participate, and I also want people to know that I absolutely bought coin myself because I believe in the project, and if it goes to zero, I'm happy. If it goes to the moon, I'm happy, because to me, this is about supporting something that is a solution to what I see being the root of the problem that's happening right now. I mean, when Klaus Schwab talks about no one owning anything, he's not talking about himself. He's saying you'll be happy and I'll be the neo-feudal king that's going to own everything, and my cronies. So what we're trying to do here is acknowledge that there is an industrial revolution. And, my colleague mentioned this recently, Steve Carroll, that we want real AI. We want actual intelligence, not what the hell they're producing, right? That's going to devour the world and turn it into some kind of digital goo. I don't know what they're planning to do, but we want to use the technology as God, as nature intended, because there is beauty and God in nature, in science. It's all throughout all the disciplines. So why would code be exempt? Or why would I not meet someone like Jason? Honestly, he has been a truther, but he's been dedicating for 7 years. Because see, I did this myself. For 4 years, I was in front of an LCD working with a developer like Jason to create Greenman Info. And it was a huge sacrifice, and yet it didn't feel that way because that's all I wanted to do 24/7.
I dedicated my whole life to this for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And your heart is like gold. Of course it is. And I could trust you because I really love and trust and admire Mike. So that's what this new system is about, is we are going to connect. We're going to resonate with each other's values, but we're also not going to be all bypassy and, let the UN tanks crush our homes. We're going to actually produce the system that is ready now to basically catch and support the people that are ready to move off the old system. Like, I'm done with Facebook, YouTube. I could even do the live here on Facebook because they said you're done uploading videos, and I'm looking forward to that because they don't want this to happen. And yet, as you said, it's unstoppable with one caveat: everybody needs to run a node. It's just like with Stand for Health Freedom, my nonprofit that no one is still using other than 250,000 people, which is something, but we need 100 million people to use it. Everyone needs to create this network and everyone will benefit from it. That's why it's so brilliantly designed.
It's the network effect.
It is.
Yeah. And that's natural law again. You can't this is why universal basic income is a horrendous idea. It's unnatural just to think you can just sit and just receive. The way this universe works, from what I can understand, is you have to put out to receive. And so it's so brilliantly done with Qortal is it's not hard. You just support the network. You support the network. It's a little bit of effort, and then you're running a node, and then you receive. And then that will allow you to expand out to do entrepreneurial pursuits, be a creator, do whatever you want.
And any number of things built on top of the network or utilizing the network for various purposes are also possible. We can do a lot of different things that these other blockchains are doing with centralized service providers that provide a specific service, and they use the chain for certain reasons. And that's also possible. But the base functionality of Qortal is meant to have absolutely no centralized control whatsoever in all of the trading that we're doing in the trade portal, all of the communications that we're currently doing with QChat. And in the future, when we get to the data storage, everything will utilize these same blockchain concepts and the encryption therein to make sure everything is secure and distributed, and data storage and everything will all be done that way. And so, yeah, it's really kind of
it's a public utility. In
Totally.
the end, that's what Google should be. It's a public utility. That's why I take this a little bit from Cliff High, who people in crypto know him well. He talks about Star Trek world, right? And versus going into like the opposite, which would be like, I call Blade Runner world, which is like the corporatist controlled dystopia. But Star Trek world, we're exploring space, and we have this core fundamental foundation of technology that's owned by nobody. It just serves us to be able to explore. And so really that's the idea here, is we have a core fundamental baseline technology that is run by nobody. It's just a protocol that is a public utility of technology that anybody can access at any hub and walk up to and access, and it's there. It's there for anybody. It's not owned by anybody. It's owned by everybody, really.
Totally owned by everybody's system that is there for verification and security for everyone using it. So it's there to provide this centralized type verification and stuff that these centralized agencies are doing now, but doing that completely decentralized, and that anybody can make use of that still to make the same end goals come to fruition, right?
Well, and think of the timing of this when an active sitting president was just deplatformed, right, by employees at Twitter and Facebook without any guidance or any permission or any influence. So the point is this moment, like, for example, you are building out a name server system, I think it is, or a name.
Yeah, no, that already exists. So the name registration in Qortal actually applies a readable, usable name to an address that you can use as a username. You can use it to send, receive coin or anything else that you can send, receive in Qortal. And you can also use it in the future when we get the data storage for an actual name to be used like a domain name, right? So on the Qortal network, name registration right now is utilized as like a username, but it will also in the future be used as a domain name on the Qortal network, so that you'll be able to go to your local machine / that name and get to someone's website or their blog or whatever else they decide to put up on the network.
Let me give you a good example, because so getting to the point here for me of having been deplatformed off my email provider, Like
Yeah.
MailChimp, right? Like we had to scramble to try to find another way to communicate or to be received by the world. And in this system, when you told me more about how it worked, is like it's just peer to peer. I don't have like the near infinite number of steps apparently where I could be my message could get captured or interrupted. And then anyone with a domain name, it could be a Coinbase.com or it could be greenmaninfo.com, could be seized by the government at any second. They have this ability, but they won't have that on this decentralized, right? And that is a huge thing that I think when people start understanding, they're going to want to support.
And when you buy these names from the registrars and stuff right now, why do they just get to decide that they own all the names before everyone else does, right? In Qortal, no one owns the names. Qortal, the system, owns the names that don't exist until somebody decides that those names exist and purchase it for a transaction fee, which is 0.001 Qrt. And then later, if they choose to sell that name that they then own because they bought it from the system, they own it now, they can sell that name later. So yeah, it's a totally fair system.
And the domain system right now, anyone can go up. It's like a whole weird market of people buying up all these domains and selling them. The important thing to understand with Qortal is you're only tied to one name and to one key to your node. So a lot of crypto projects, you can just create as many infinite accounts as you want, addresses, etc.
You can still do that in Qortal for different purposes, but you're minting. You want to have one minting account. The rest of the accounts, you can create multiple different accounts for different purposes and make different names on each one. Totally. That's what I've been doing for different reasons too. But we want people to just have one minting account. The rest, you can totally create new accounts, but you will have the same account every time you log into that account. So the wallet address will stay the same and your name registration is tied to that wallet address. The backend just works a little bit differently on Qortal.
That's amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my point is that you want to get into the network now and get your name,
right?
Because that way that's another impetus for joining the network now, is because as this grows into basically future domain names, it's unique. Like when someone grabs it, unless they want to try to sell it to you or whatnot, it's done just how it is now. But you don't have that. Like right now, it's really easy for people to go in and just buy like thousands of domain names and then just hold them hostage. And it's not so easy in this platform. And the other thing what's cool about the naming is like one thing that I think's a really hurdle for adoption to people is how you send coin right now to a public address. You have to copy and paste the public address key, and that can actually lead to a lot of lost coins. And what's cool about this platform is you can just send to your friend's name on the network.
I wanted to address this question that someone's asking because there was a good question. The node, you don't have to be a minter on the system. You can run a node and use it for all the other purposes and use it to buy coin, use it to send, use it to get the registration done, use it for everything else. Only being a minter, which is to help secure the chain and be rewarded for your contribution in being someone who's potentially the block signer and signing a new block into existence. That is the only thing that requires sponsorship. Everything else you can use and make use of without anything else. But if you want to be a minter, yes, you have to be sponsored by another minter in the system who's either level 5 or higher or is a founder. So yeah, you have to communicate with someone to get a sponsorship. Once you go through the sponsorship period, then you're totally back off on your own again. It's only a gateway towards getting that minting account initially established. You have to prove yourself to a sponsor, to the network with a sponsor for 7,200 blocks, which is roughly 5 days if you have your node online the whole time. At which point you become level 1 and you're totally back off on your own again. You don't even have to communicate with anybody again if you don't want to. But you only thing that requires sponsorship is becoming a minter. Everything else on the network is totally open and able to be used without any sort of sponsorship or approval from anyone.
Completely permissionless, completely trustless, completely universal. You can be anywhere in the world, of course, to access this. And that's an important point, though. The reason why we do that is it's just like a security protocol too, because the minting, once again, is how the consensus works. So we want to make sure that we have good actors on the network for the consensus aspect to secure the network. So, but anybody can pop in and just jump in. And if a friend wants to send them some Qrt that's already has some, that's the network effect, right? This minting that has some, or someone sent them, they can send you some Qrt. And then you can use that little bit of Qrt to create your name and jump in. Q chat's totally free. You don't have to spend any court to jump into QChat. You can start using QChat. You can join groups in there and start using that encrypted chat right away. So, and what's beautiful is it's Java based, so it's cross-platform. You can use it on any computer, Linux, Mac, PC, etc.
Yeah, I just want to zoom out a little bit more before we go, I guess maybe give people even just a very specific example of how they can join, because it's very technical. I've spent 2 weeks here now, thanks to the amazing time you both have contributed to helping me understand. And trust me, every time I go through a step, I think of all of you watching and be like, wow, this is so much. Like, I don't know how I'm going to translate this. So I want people to get more of a higher level understanding, because this project is 7 years in the making, and there were other projects that were attempted, and some of the developers and code were used at least as inspiration for this one. The reality, though, is I don't want people to think that this is the only decentralized platform out there or attempt at one. No, because this is the movement or evolution of the internet.
It is the only one that uses minting, though.
Yes, because I was going to qualify.
There are two, but they both were developed by our team. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want people to understand this is infinitely unique. That's my determination after 2 weeks of studying this. And I've already been in crypto myself for like 3-4 years, more superficially. And I can tell you that this blows my mind, because we see billions of dollars flowing into projects like Ethereum or just basic replications of the code. And they're making promises with white papers and doing initial coin offerings. And it's basically like Wolf of Wall Street level greed and
that
fear.
That stuff drove me insane. That's why we built it first and then talked about it. We did not want to do, and people ask me for the white paper. I'm like, yeah, I could write one, but why do that when we've already written the platform?
That's the thing, guys. These guys could be making billions of dollars if they wanted to, and they obviously don't. They're actually, in a way, had to take a pledge of poverty to get to this point. And when I talked to Jason,
quite literally, yeah.
Literally, I know, because my developer and myself, when I developed Greenman Info, he was like selling blood literally before I finally made the decision. Okay, guys, I got to monetize this, and that took years to even try to have a membership and all that. But the point is that their initial developers and founders, they literally had to live like, Gregorian monks or whatever, eating little, shards of grass to survive. And that was the way you determined these people wouldn't be greedy, because they're the ones who are going to initially sponsor. So it's like
the ones who came back, the ones who supported Quora, which was quote unquote a dead project. They were the ones who had the potential to be already leveled in Qortal at the launch, because they were supporting a dead coin and running a network for no reward. So I thought, people running a network for a couple years for no reward have to be people who don't really care about greed and stuff like that. So I figured that would be a great way to get the early leveled minters in, was to take the people who had forged blocks for free on Quora over the past 2 years and make them start out at a higher level, because they had been dedicating their time already towards supporting something for free just because they liked the network. And I thought it was a great idea. Yeah.
Well, and keep in mind that you guys executed the first smart contract. So what Ethereum gets all the credit for,
I know,
basically, and then that's part
we won't even get into the drama of
Nah.
Ethereum 2 and how with some of the developers on this chain wanting to pull them over there, and these developers saying, we see what you're doing. You're creating a new kind of, it's essentially Ethereum. I'll say right now, it's a Ponzi. It relies on ICOs. That's the whole focus. That's the whole value of it, is to create tokens on there, so people then can go on centralized exchanges and basically play the markets. And most of those ICOs are corporation owned, that those people that have that coin have a vested interest and own a ton of the coin. And then what happens is that those projects go up and down, and Ethereum's value is going up. But now look what's happening to Ethereum. The gas prices are out of control because it's a faulty system. I'm sorry, I call it the CompuServe of Crypto 2.0. It will fail because it didn't come from a right ethical infrastructure. It came as a way to sure, I think Vitalik is a really smart person, and I think he really probably had good intentions to use blockchain as a computational machine. The problem is, it's blockchain. For me, it just came out of the wrong mentality at that point with the ICO boom, and now it's so deep. It's like it's like the mainstream medical model, Sayer. It's like they're so deep into their germ theory, into pharmaceuticals, that they're too deep now. And so I see that in the same way with Ethereum. And so what do? They just have to create more tokens. Now they're creating this whole DeFi thing.
Can I point out too, it's like an addiction to fiat money, when the whole point of crypto, the whole space, was originally to respond to the incredible harm and suffering caused from the last financial collapse due to the Ponzi scheme of fractional reserve banking and the Federal Reserve. So, and now it's being re-co-opted, as you said. Proof of work mining can be manipulated. And then, of course, by the way, I'm not against Bitcoin, because I do see the death of sovereign.
I'm not against Bitcoin either. I'm just saying that the POW does have a tendency to lead towards centralization.
Yeah. Well, it's a transition towards this better system, is the way I see it. So for me, this project,
we actually support Bitcoin and Qortal as a wallet.
It encompasses the best of what Bitcoin and Ethereum intends to do. And that's what I think people are going to start understanding. And when they do, there will probably be an attempted stampede of capital in to invest. But what you guys have done so brilliantly is you've attempted to keep the money changer decentralized exchanges out of the project. One project, BTC Max, has listed you, and that's do what you will. It's a free market. That's another thing people need to understand, is that you're not trying to create some perfect utopian, totalitarian unicorn state here either. You're just creating a base layer with us.
Anyone can make use of it for whatever purpose they see fit, right? Like that's what it's all about. Like, and that's why anyone can jump in, develop on it. Anybody can jump in, use it for whatever. Yeah.
That's the power of open source. That's the power of open source. Open source everything.
That's the power. But look at what this company has done. Michael Saylor talks about it. Why does it have like $1 trillion or close to it market cap? Apple dematerialized a near infinite number of objects, from flashlights to rulers to, I mean, the apps do almost anything now. But they're totally proprietary, and there's usury level fees. And this has become the new dark church of this new world order. And so we are also trying to get through this problem. And thanks to you guys, and Jason specifically, you've created a hardware that actually is open.
Well, my development team, but yeah, like I come up with some concepts and stuff, but it's really everyone. Like all the people who are involved in Qortal, all the developers that I've gotten to talk to each other and gotten this done. Like without them, I'm just some dude up here rambling about Bitcoin stuff. Like and they were they were the ones who actually made all of this happen. And without them, I say thank you to them on a daily basis, because without them, we wouldn't have this amazing system. So yeah, it was not just me by any means. In fact, and a lot of the guys who've been working on this make me look like an idiot. So like,
and this is just the start, because anybody can come in. It's open source. If you have code skill, we need coders badly right now.
Well, please.
Like, so that's the beauty of it. We've set the infrastructure. It's there now. We're building out the network, and now it's time. It's time for people who are impassioned by the ethical kind of moral baseline of this that have skill sets. Whether you have marketing skill sets, whether it's all about community in the end.
It's all about building that community and getting everybody understanding this and getting everybody helping to fulfill this goal, because it's everything down to the hardware level is open source.
We envision a future where everything is open source.
Right.
Yes.
And that challenges people, and I'll love to talk about this here.
Well, it makes it hard for us to find certain things to get investment with too, because they don't understand that in open source you can still make money with open source stuff. But they don't.
Well, that's the part that I want to discuss a little more. Well, first of all, what drove me to you was that I had an inspiration before being introduced to you to make Greenman Info a blockchain-based project. Because all of the censorship attempts, like this is not my knowledge. It's from the National Library of Medicine anyway. I just spent a lot of time curating it and adding another layer of value. But I want to give that back to the collective. And what better way than use a blockchain technology? And that's what brought me to you, because I was like, wow, maybe these guys can help me do this. And I can put it on there. So I want people to know that. The second part is that it's important for people to understand that this is the new, if you will, fertile soil for incredible innovation, free market principles,
Anyone who actually understands code and they look at the code base that we have, they come back to me really excited most of the time. They're like, it can do this and it can do this and it can do this. So yeah, it's something that this is not just some nonsense project that's been put together over a short period of time. This is many years in development with some really, really smart people all working together to make these crazy concepts actually come to fruition. So
look at my point around this problem around, let's say, land. Okay. Over time, there's been so much concentration of wealth and power and land, et cetera, into a few hands. Coming in and taking their land, for example, can be just as karmically bad, like a violent process, for example. But what I'm saying is the internet is a new layer of human evolution, consciousness, and the commons concept, as Mike said, that it's a utility. Jordan Peterson says this. He thinks that, the flow of social media interaction should be treated like a utility. It's the currency of democracy at the very least. So what you guys have been building, or at least the vision of this, is an opportunity for us to create a ground for also free market expression, but not malignant disaster capitalism either. There's going to be checks and balances as ecosystem, and you and I get to co-create it if you're drawn to it. And that's, again, what I want to get out. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what it's all about. It's about bringing all the like-minded people together to have first off a base level platform that's there to use, right? And we have that now. And the functionality of all the things that we've got demos for, like QChat and the trade portal. So we're never stuck to a centralized exchange. You'll always be able to trade directly with Litecoin or multiple other coins in the future when we get those done. But right now you can trade directly with Litecoin inside of the Qortal UI without any central authority whatsoever. There's no possible regulation. There's no possible moderation of trades. It's a literal cross-chain trade from one chain to another that can already be done right now. And you can see all of the other concepts in the back end that are not even fully built out yet, but there's a lot of stuff that's going to be able to be done with the platform.
So for those who are listening, because the question was very specific, you answered it, but just to give a more colloquial overlay, is that you can get Coinbase, which ties to your bank full of fiat dollars, and you can buy Litecoin and send it to the Qortal trade portal, and then turn that on the trade portal into Qort.
Essentially, all you're sending it to is a Litecoin wallet. It's just a Litecoin wallet that we've built inside of Qortal. It's a local wallet. You have all the keys for it. So when you're sending coin, you're not sending coin to anyone except for yourself. And so when you do that, you buy Litecoin on Coinbase, and then send it to your Qortal wallet, you're actually securing it at the same time, because when you leave it in Coinbase, you don't own it. Coinbase owns it. So until you withdraw to a wallet that you control, which Qortal is just a wallet, you'll withdraw to a wallet that you control. You're securing your coins and taking ownership of your coins at the same time. And then you can use the trade portal with that local wallet to trade for Qort.
Right. And the point, too, is that for people that want to understand, okay, is this some imaginary prospective thing, is that when you have Qort, you can also turn it back into fiat by trading it for Litecoin. So that way you understand that this is actually has what you call liquidity, and it has this real world connectivity with the old dying system that we have to interact with, but we don't want to be captured by it. We don't want to be taken advantage by it. So just keep in mind that this is a live project now after all this time, 7 years, and it is now functioning and ready to take your energy. If you want, simply run a node or participate by purchasing Qort and holding it, because that's all that I will do with it, because I want this to grow and to feed the ecosystem.
Liquidity. Can we talk about liquidity? Because right now, most of crypto is focused around liquidity of these so-called DEX, which is really a lot of this Ethereum-based, they call decentralized finance or DeFi. And so you've got oracles, you got all these things trying to create liquidity. Liquidity is created through adoption. Liquidity is created through people actually using the system that will thus create demand for it in a real free market. And if you have that real demand, then people will want to come in. And they'll want to come in, they'll want to bring their Litecoin or their Bitcoin in, and they'll want the Qort so that they can use the Qort for services like creating our plans for a more Telegram-based decentralized encrypted chat, for hosting, for all these things. You know, the manufacturer of liquidity for markets is Wall Street 2.0. It's derivatives. We are not supporting a derivative here. Qort is not a derivative. And this is really important to know, because Bitcoin has in many ways become a derivative. And that is the problem with centralized exchanges. So these are all really important things for people to understand with the current state of crypto. So we take this stuff very seriously, and it's really, we are technologists, we are freedom lovers, we are philosophers. We want to see the world be decentralized because we feel like that is the solution to all the problems we're seeing right now. And the way you decentralize is by getting off the centralized exchanges, by getting off fiat. People are asking, well, how do I convert Qrt into the real world? Well,
I mean, LTC is pretty much already accepted at a bunch of different places, even without converting it to fiat.
You beat me to the punch. We start using crypto instead of fiat. We use it for bartering. We use it. I know this is radical, but we use it instead of converting to fiat. And people are going to need to start doing that because the banks are getting crazy. So,
someone's question, I kind of want to answer this. Yeah, because he asked about CoinMarketCap. Okay, so there's both a beautiful thing and a slightly annoying thing about the fact that we do not need centralized service providers, right? So because we do not need centralized service providers, we do not need centralized exchanges, we're not really listed on any of them, and we will not be putting any effort in towards getting listed on them. So we cannot really be listed on something like CoinMarketCap, where they only take into consideration centralized exchanges. That being said, if CoinMarketCap decided that they did want to support us, we do have a price API built into the Qortal API that allows you to get the average price in Litecoin for Qrt that's been traded on the trade portal. So they could actually put a little bit of development time into making the support for putting Qortal onto CoinMarketCap if they wanted to. That being said, I personally, or any of the founders personally, will not be actively seeking listing on any centralized service provider.
Market cap is another one of those tricky things that's used within current crypto to create fake value. And we see it all the time with these Ponzi's. And we got to get away from this. Crypto 2.0, which we call with the Ethereum boom, the ICO boom of 2017, got people into this mindset of basically the trading of the markets. And
they're treating crypto like stocks, which on one case is kind of okay, but on the other, it's not right at all.
How are you going to compete with the bots, people? Yeah. How are you going to compete with these are low liquidity markets that are pumping up schemes that are, I must get hit up by like 20 of these a day on Discord, manipulating these projects. And these are we're not dissing a lot of these developers. A lot of people are getting into making protocols with really good intention.
Yeah, some of them are awesome. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're doing it in many ways which is leading to their own destruction because they're following the game plan of getting on, getting on Binance, getting listed, and then boom, the whales come in. The predator class, the predator class comes in and manipulates and controls and destroys.
And that's another thing on the trade portal. I just want to make a point of, since we're talking about that, is the trade portal's market cannot be manipulated. There's no way to put up a sell wall. There's only sells that are listed on the market anyway. So when you go into the trade portal, you'll see the market sells that are listed. People who put those sells up paid a transaction fee to put that sell up on the blockchain. It's literally on the blockchain. Then that sell or any sell listed there can be clicked and bought regardless. So you're not stuck behind a certain order. Somebody puts up a 5,000 order at a low price, and you're like, whatever, I'm ignoring that guy. You can just ignore him and buy a different order. It doesn't matter. So that's the thing. There is no manipulation that's possible on the Qortal trade portal at all.
What I'm going to do, too, for folks is that before doing this interview, I spent the 2 weeks pretty much ingesting all the interviews that you all have.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of details there, too. And at the end of this, we'll also ask either Jason or probably you, Jason, to go ahead and walk people through what they would do if they wanted to participate.
Yeah.
Because that's still kind of a question. But
there's a couple ways to participate, too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and really the thing is at this stage, I really just wanted to share what got me extremely excited about, because we are really in a situation right now where if we don't have this alternative where we can't express ourselves and share information and now value, it's really dark. And on top of it, I do feel that this is a means to create abundance or value from your own participation. And that's something I've come to. So I want people to know that for me, before this came up, I was starting to visualize ways we could just remove, money from interactions, going back to finding your gift, whatever it is. You might be a singer, massage therapist, a farmer, a blowhard like me, that gets on a soapbox. And then you exchange that locally with people in your community. It could be that we have 8 chickens now. We're going to have way too many eggs. That's the beginning of our potlatch here locally. And that's why, exactly. And I know that, obviously, Mike, you get really into this idea with all the great stuff you've been working on. But that's part of why Qortal to me is so powerful, because this is the only project that I know of that fundamentally was built to mirror and enhance that incredible human impulse to share, to connect, to participate. And that's
why your participation gives you the level. That's why, it was supposed to be based on how much energy you put in, was supposed to be directly correlating to your reward and your influence in the network. And so, you're exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, if you're listening to this and you're not a little bit confused and being like, wow, what is this? I don't blame you, trust me, because these guys on a technical level, they're talking very 101 right now. And even I'm having trouble sometimes. So, but I do think, though, that's what's being called of us. We are in a situation where, the technocratic dystopia that'll be driven by an AI system that is actually not very friendly in terms of its algos, right? And how are we going to countermand that? How are we going to exist in the world if we don't have a parallel system that we have created that is going to reflect and honor our basic sovereignty? And that's what this is about for me. So I hope
total
you guys
individual sovereignty. That's what I always say Qortal is about. And when you get into, there's a lot of stuff to understand, but on the base level, that's all it's about, is giving back total individual sovereignty to everyone, right?
And as we develop and get more people involved, we will make the onboarding process as a community. We're going to make it easier. Right now, yes, it takes a little bit of technical know-how. And so it's all about community building and growing and getting more developers so that it becomes easier and easier to use. I will say this, though. If we want sovereignty, we got to do the work of it. We kind of have to become our own theologians, our own lawyers, our understanding law, understanding how to grow food. Right now, kind of universe is demanding that. So that's what's so empowering about this space, is that you are taking charge of your own life, your own currency, your own.
So yes, a little bit of setup and effort in the beginning is required, and
you will be rewarded.
Walkthrough videos on how to set it all up, but really it's not that difficult. And once you get it set up once, it's really, really simple. Then the UI is really intuitive. Even if it's not as pretty as we want it to be right now, it's still really intuitive and easy to use.
And UI just means user interface.
User interface, yeah.
So that just means that's what you interact with a mouse and keyboard,
right,
versus typing code to do the things we do.
And
that UI will get better and better and slicker and slicker. And that's what you get with centralization. You've got teams with millions and millions of dollars that are just devoted to single projects. And guess what? This can support that. The base layer technology, which is decentralized, you can have a for-profit company come on board and develop hardware for it, develop apps for it. Of course, we're entrepreneurs. We support the free market. We support that.
Someone just asked about how to claim a name in the quickest possible way. You could actually install just the Qortal UI, and before you create your account, change the node to node 2 at the settings, and you won't even have to sync the chain, and you can get in immediately and go in and use QChat. And you just need a fraction of a coin to register your name. So if you're in QChat, if people are in QChat talking, I will send people who do not have coin a couple coins so that they can, register names. I'm not, I'm trying to make sure everybody can do that.
Well, one thing too is if we could also maybe have Jason, I don't know if you can share your screen and just run through maybe no more than 5 minutes, an overview of how, it could be longer than 5 minutes, but so that people can see how do they actually put this on their device. I don't know if that could
Let me see. I haven't done it on Mac yet.
You want to screen share the QChat? I'll drop a note in there. The thing about QChat, which is so exciting, is this is just one little element that we developed on it using the base layer technology of this. It's infinite of what can be done with this, and we're envisioning a whole new streaming platform, a whole new type of YouTube, and then of course hosting, super important. With our company Alpha Vedic, we're trying to re-envision how commerce can be done, and we see our website, because we're being censored. We got a strike on YouTube last week. We're seeing all of commerce being done on this, and everything. I know Sayre's same with you with Green Med Info. We'll be some of the first websites that are totally immutable. I mean, that's really exciting. So
I don't know. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So this is what the UI for Qortal looks like. And what I was saying, so I have the core running on this machine too. So that's the blue icon right up here. But if I didn't have that core running, what I could do is literally just change this here to node 2, which is the one with 12391 right here at the very bottom. If I do that and close and log in using that, then it will use a hosted core so that you don't even have to sync the chain. And I'm just going to create a little test account here.
I think for most people, they won't know what that means, any of that, but some people
basically
will.
what
It's
that
simple,
means
right?
is you're hopping onto someone else's node, onto a node that is connected to the network.
And since
so,
the UI is what manages the keys and everything, you don't even need to worry about any sort of issues like that. You're still managing everything on your side. And no matter what with Qortal, there's no communication of anything other than signed transactions that go to the network anyway. So there's no worry about any sort of losing your account, anything like that. So I just wanted to show you, you could log in without using a local core, so you don't have to sync it yourself. And you can still come right into QChat, which is right here, and you can message and do whatever you'd like to do and see.
I just messaged right there.
See, yeah, he's right there. And so I came in with a brand new account without using the core on my computer and was able to do that. And if you come in and you talk on here and you're an account that doesn't have a name, I will come in and send you a coin or a fraction of a coin so that you can register your name and get going. So yeah, it's the UI is really simple to set up. Even on this Mac, which is arguably the most difficult to set up. For the UI, we literally have an installer for it, and you're good to go. So, creating your account and everything is really simple. It walks you through the whole process. So if there's any questions, just let us know. We have videos and stuff explaining how to do it too. So.
Yeah, that's helpful. We'll put some videos in the notes, and I want people to know that, a lot of my questions initially were like, wow, how are people really going to use this? And that user interface is actually really intuitive and smart. And I know a lot of thinking was behind it. Keep in mind in the future, some of these things will become even more automated with.
Oh yeah, a lot easier. I have a lot of different ideas already for different plugins to be built to make a lot of things easier.
But I want people to understand the scale involved in a project like this is just unbelievable. Like when I created Agreement Info with my developer, it was 100,000 lines of custom code. I know I asked you at one point, Jason, if you could check.
I haven't counted it. I know it's a ridiculous number. Like
maybe
I don't know. I know that just the Siam ATs have a couple 100,000 just by themselves. So
wow.
I'd have to go back and literally count it. But there's so much work that's into this platform.
Yeah,
it's all open source. It's on currently.
Yeah, you can look at the code. You can go look at it on GitHub and see.
It's currently on GitHub, and now we know GitHub, which is for people that don't understand what GitHub is. That's just a repository for code. And anybody can go in and make commits to that. And there's a lot that gets into the open source world. But what's the problem with even GitHub now is it's owned by Microsoft.
We will eventually have our code repo on top of Qortal.
That's what I was just going to say. The brilliance of this is that we're going to literally support our own open source code on the open source platform that is fully decentralized.
Well,
I mean, that just is like...
there's so many people that obviously, like myself initially, like still don't understand. And that's okay because, guys, I don't want you all to think that you're supposed to really understand the technical language here. But so what I want to do is just let people know that Jason spent a week helping me and a few friends try to install this on his.
More than happy to.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the crazy thing about this is like, it's not scalable for him to do that. I don't want him to do that, but he's going to do it.
I'm making videos and stuff too. Like I just made the video yesterday on the installation for the Mac. And I can,
and we have support.
We have a great community too.
Sean helps out. A lot of people, a lot of people in our community will do that too. It's not just Jason.
Well, and that's why I want to point out for those who want to support the project like I did is, I donate all the time to different people, projects that I believe in. And in this case, it was easy. I bought coin and that helped. And that's one of the things that, I don't want to make a sales pitch for this project because the point is for people to mint the coin and then create their own value. But the reality, because someone asked this earlier with price discovery, is that if you look at the price of Ethereum right now, given that the chain was rolled back because it was technically hacked or compromised.
Yeah, the DAO,
the billions of dollars have gone into it, and this is superior in every way that I can measure. Then again, when it comes to price discovery, it's like 30 cents a coin. If people are looking at it as an opportunity, then yeah, I think it's an opportunity, but I don't exactly. But I don't want people to get into a state of FOMO or greed and feel like, oh my God.
It's not what this is about at all.
It's not. It's because we ultimately, what we want is for people to run the node and work with us.
Be part of the network, help us grow it. And yeah, if you've got some extra money you want to throw into it at these early stages, it's a good idea. But that's, completely aside from what we're trying to go for here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I think what is needed more than ever is for people to do what Mike is saying earlier, which is this is just one of the aspects of being a human on this planet at this time. It's a big one, and thank God there for people like Jason and the anonymous visionary developers that have put their lifeblood into this. But we have to make sure it's balanced. This is a project that I'm introducing now, and I could still spend years studying this topic and do a better job next time. But I didn't want to wait any longer. I really felt like, meeting you, Jason, at this time, knowing how you guys opened this up where you could have created capital for yourself, but chose not to, proving to me that everything you've said about this project is absolutely true.
Yes.
That's why we want you guys to participate. And
I do not have the capacity to bullshit people. I just don't do it. I don't ever do that. And this is project that I've been dedicating my entire life to, and a lot of other people have too, for a long period of time, because I believe in the philosophy behind it, because I know that we can do it, and because I know we have the developers and the team that made it happen, and we'll have continually adding more people who can come in and help us out because it's all open source. And so all we really have to do is get more eyes, get more people who look at it and see it, and people who understand the code, especially, because once they see that, then they get really excited and then they really want to help. So yeah, like we just need to get more eyes on the project overall, get people understanding it so they can help use their skills and whatever skills that they have to help get it out further. And of course, get much more developer attention and so forth. So yeah.
The website is Qortal.org. Qortal.org. That's how you can go in and find all the downloads and information. We are currently redoing that. Sarah was nice enough to invest in that. I've invested. I have a web development team. We're literally doing that out of our own pocket. It's currently being redesigned right now. So we're hoping to have that up in a week or two. Totally nice, slicker looking site. That's the issue with decentralization, is we're not going to have that corporate slickness right out of the gate. Yeah. So people need to realize that.
That's what Agreement Info.
I literally built that site myself, the one that's up there now. I'm like, I just got to make sure we get a site up, and so I just put it up there. Yeah, so like that's the thing, is that since we don't have all the corporate money and corporate stuff from behind us, we're not going to have all the slick, shiny, fancy stuff right now. But we'll get there too, right? Like everything in time will get nicer looking, will get easier to use, will get more functionality in both the front and the back end. And I can see nothing but like really positive things in the future happening if we adhere to all of this.
Yeah, what I'll be doing, I think it's clear, is we'll do updates with you on the project, because as I get more involved and people get more excited, my main focus is how can we get this so that it's extremely easy for people to participate. And you're doing the best you can, and it's amazing where it's at. And I know there's a lot more we can do. But we also wanted to be slow on some level right now.
Right. And the network is built to grow slowly, like with the sponsorships too. Like, so we can't just sponsor all the new minters at once, right? Yep. So you have to kind of get used to it, understand it, and then wait and get a sponsorship as you're contributing. So it makes you get involved in the community. It makes you, just get involved, basically. Get involved and start looking at it and start checking it out. And then you'll really understand it. Then by the time you get sponsored, you'll be really, really happy about getting sponsored. And literally the end of oppression. I love that comment. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really what we're trying to go for. I know it sounds like super idealistic and crazy, but yes, we came up with some crazy idealistic concepts and we were able to make them real, which is insane.
And we're allowed to be idealistic and radical because we intentionally didn't put ourselves in a position where we have a board of directors and in commercial interest telling us what to do. I've had projects in this space actually kind of fail because of that intention, because moneyed interest came in and said, well, it's time to get this person and the board and the CEO and get it corporatized. So we're allowed to do this. And then the community then can come in and go, well, we want to see it this way. And it's all about consensus. So if enough in the community go, well, we feel like this is important, and they have those voting rights because they put the time into the network over years to have their say, then they will. And so it's that's a really important thing to understand is as like a founder, Jason founder, we're just in the end, we have to do the work too. Still, we have to be running nodes and we have to be able to maintain our level so that we can have a say, because in the end we could get pushed out.
Right.
So
Well, I was going to say too, I mean, what you're describing.
Someone was asking about getting Qort. You can buy Litecoin from anywhere, send it to your Litecoin wallet and buy Qort in the trade portal. Or if you're just trying to get like one or two so you can register a name, just start talking in Q chat and I'll notice you and I'll send you some coins so you can register your name.
Yeah, I was just going to say too, and we're going to kind of like give everyone here an opportunity to sort of like end with a certain message, or is like what you're describing is truly a participatory democracy. And, you know, so many of us have been gaslit and deluded and you know, controlled into thinking that we somehow live in that here in the United States. And I think that the veil was lifted in the past year for many tens of millions of more people. And you just can't write it on paper and make it exist, but you can create, right? You can create a structure technologically. It's almost like it's the promise of a technocracy that no one talks about, or, you know, that there is something still very beautiful. And I will use the reference from astrology, Aquarian, about what this is, you know? And so you guys have renewed my faith that there is a way for us to use technology in a healthy way to take back our rights and to truly heal the world. And this is like a vote for peace. It's a vote for everything I believe in. So I just want to say again,
can I just say one thing though? This isn't the problem with democracy is the mob rule idea, and most democracy is actually centralized mob rule. Yeah. And what's beautiful about this is that actually this is a distributed hierarchical democracy. So those who have put the elders, right, get to have more weight because the elders have put their time in and have more wisdom on the network. You can't just come in and start pushing your rap because you know, that's the problem with democracy is that it's the control over of the many over
that influence cannot be bought. No more, what is it called? Lobbying, all the bullshit, right?
That's huge.
There is no lobbying in our voting system. Yeah.
This is the rise of a true, I guess, global, decentralized, distributed democracy. Talk about a new world order, global governance structure. Well, I'd rather participate in this one than whatever.
One that's actually by the people, for the people, owned and controlled by the people. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is the beauty of what I see here. And I'm going to do my best to support it in whatever way I can to give it a chance, because I know that there's obstacles and failabilities in our intentions, but I think that we can make this work. I really do.
And one of the things too that's going to make the onboarding a lot easier is these devices. And we could have companies that come on and do this and for profit. But because it's so easy to mint on anything, you can take what's called a Raspberry Pi, which is just a small operating device. It's just a small computer basically, and that's like $100. But we can develop it through the open source software, so that's just plug and play, and it has like a Tor embedded for security, for privacy, and basically a plug and play thing where it's just a piece of hardware you plug in and it runs your internet for you. It runs your node. It allows you to mint everything out of the gate. And so there's going to be a lot of really cool innovation that will make it plug and play for people. You're still going to have to do the work to run your node and take the time, right? It's the time preference idea. You're good. In order to take place in this reality, you have to put your time forward. Like you cannot hack time that I know of yet. So
you can't. I mean, nobody I know can hack time either. So I think
so that's the brilliance of. In the end, that's for me.
And there's a lot of different functionality to that algorithm at the back level. It's not just like just time. No, there's a lot to it. Like the back level algorithm on this thing is pretty complex, but it's fair and it's honest and it's open source. Everybody can take a look at it, and it's pretty incredible.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure, I mean, we still have 1,000 people on, that there's going to be a lot of people now going to the website, trying to download the installer. And I know that, Jason, you'll probably get flooded. And so
that's okay.
That's okay.
Our Discord's great, though. We're on Discord.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people in the community that are more than willing to help at all times of the day, because we've got worldwide participants. So there's people always available there.
Oh, that's
and ask any questions. Get into our Discord, or even in Q chat. and ask the questions you need to ask, and somebody will get to you, whether it's me or someone else.
If you can get into QChat, which isn't hard, as we said, get the UI installed, I'll be in. Like, I was even joking on Discord. I'm not going to be in Discord much anymore because I'm trying to live what we're talking about. So I'm trying to use
me too.
QChat
I'm trying to get
mostly.
everybody off of Discord. But the problem with QChat is it's still only 24 hours. We need more caching. We need to do some caching on the client side so we can have messages stay longer, and a few other things that we can do. But obviously that's just with a little bit more development. But yeah, I want to use QChat, man. I want to get off of Discord. I want to use QChat for everything, and having the groups and everything can be a similar structure to Discord, but built on top of a distributed, decentralized network. It's insane what this can do.
Yeah,
like,
because
all of the
Discord's
stuff
already
that Qortal can do blows my mind even still.
Yeah. Discord's already censoring people, and people I know have been kicked off, like whole servers have been kicked off. So it is centralized, but it is a good platform right now for community building. So you can go on there, and if you do have questions, there's a whole technical stuff. If you are on Telegram too, we do have a Telegram.
As far as
support.
Somebody's asking questions about the UI running on the Mac, it doesn't verify the developer since we're anonymous. So just go to your system preferences, security, and privacy, and the general tab, and click open anyway. And then it will open, and you'll have to click open anyway one more time, and then it will finally fully open.
Here's another good question if someone wants to answer.
Well, real quick, Jason, someone's already from this stream on QChat telling me about it, and I'm going to send them coin right now to get their name.
Nice. So that means they're using the hosted core and everything's working great. So yeah, and then if they wanted to sync their own core, they can do trading and minting when they have their own core. So the thing is, the difference, right? If you're using one of the hosted cores, which only right now Node 2 is the only one that works, and I'm going to be changing that. But yeah, right now you can only use Node 2 as a hosted node. But if you don't have your own local node, you cannot trade and you cannot mint. You have to own your node in order to trade or mint in Qortal. Everything else, you can send money, you can send messages, you can do all the other stuff with a non-local core, but everything else, the trading and the minting, has to be done with a local core because you have to own your node before you can claim to own it, right?
And how much court is involved to create a name again?
0.001.
That's what I thought. Okay. And then there was a question here. How can it stop I didn't see the whole thing. It flashed real quick. I think we covered this a lot, but how can you stop a billionaire from coming in and buying up the network?
Well, they could buy up coin, but the coin doesn't mean anything as far as the influence in the network. So they can't buy influence. They can buy coin. They can hold as much coin as they want. They can't manipulate the market because there's no manipulation possible in the trade portal anyway. So sure, they can hold. They can be a big holder and come up in value with us. That's about all they can do.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, guys, I mean, we're here almost at 2 hours, and this has been incredible. I so appreciate my followers.
I want to do this weekly or something, man. I've been wanting to do some sort of weekly live stream, even if it's just like a 20-minute thing every week or whatever. If you have time for that, I don't know, or Mike and I can set something up. But yeah, I want to keep getting continual word out there.
I'm with you. In fact, one of my intentions is to create a platform that would in some way help to amplify and support you and all related projects. I mean, Agreement Info is sort of like that for me still, but the reality is that I feel like I want to continue to support and educate and raise awareness around this, because it's going to make people's lives happier and more inspired to know that there really is a solution against something that seems just irrepressibly dark. Right. And so, exactly. So I'm with you guys, everyone who's here. I thank you for participating. I'll just hand it off to Mike and you for any last comments or anything you'd like to share.
Well, I just sent someone who came in at Coin. They're going to create their name right now. Nice. So I understand, guys, that please understand, in a truly decentralized project like this, it's not like going to be like going to the Apple Store. Right. And we have to understand that and give us a little bit of leeway here. Come into the community, get to know people in the community, ask for support, join us in this mission. Like, it's not going to be so simple as clicking. This is the problem we have in our reality right now.
I mean, we can make it simpler too, but we
will.
Yeah,
it will. But people have become so accustomed to centralized services, inflationary centralized services that make their lives so easy, and that's great. But look where it's gotten us. We're basically enslaving ourselves.
Everything.
They own everything.
Yeah.
So
we're trying to get rid of that.
A little bit of elbow grease to start.
And getting set up is really not that difficult. Watch the video. If you're on Mac, which I assume a lot of the people watching now are on Mac, I just did a video on how to set everything up yesterday. So check that video out and walk through. It walks you through every aspect. You need to learn a few different commands in the terminal, but it takes like no effort really. Like, so if you dedicate, 15 minutes to this, you should be able to get it going.
Can I say one more thing too?
Sure.
The chain's really fast. So like Bitcoin takes like, depending on how busy the network is and how many validations it takes depending on what you're using and stuff, it could take like an hour sometimes to get coin. And we know this. Ethereum can take a while depending on gas prices. 1 minute. Guaranteed. 1 minute. So it's no matter what.
Confirmed in one confirmation because of the way the backend consensus works. It doesn't need multiple confirmations. One confirmation and you're good to go. 1 minute guaranteed or less.
Yeah, so it's a robust chain. We could get more in these future chats talking about the
back end of it is completely different than any other blockchain and capable of a whole lot more than any other blockchain. And when developers look at that, they see it and they're like, "Holy crap, you're not kidding!" Like, and so this is actually an infrastructure platform. Yeah,
there's a lot of fast chains out there, but they're centralized in that they're usually like some sort of delegated Byzantine fault tolerance. And we don't need to get too. I know that's going to be like
what?
But this is a truly decentralized fast chain. So I know it's hard to compete against Swift or against something that's like 5 seconds with Visa, but can we wait a minute, people? For freedom, can we wait 1 minute for freedom?
See it with QChat, how fast the unconfirmed transactions are. We can use that same concept for QChat to do other type of transaction types in the future that would be instant too. So yeah, there's a lot we can do. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. Okay. Well, any last comments, or are we
I just say go to Qortal.org, jump in the Discord, Telegram, join us in the community. I'm Alpha Warrior on there, and he's Crowetic, and just get involed. And the
whole community is great. You'll love the community.
Yeah, it's a great crypto community or blockchain based community, and we're really excited at Alpha Vedic. AlphaVedic.com is our website. We look to get off Patreon, off WooCommerce, and off like everything. And my plan is to create an e-commerce solution using this, so that you can plug and play into WordPress. And I like WordPress because it's open source and it's easy. So I
want to have a website builder like that for our data and hosting when we get to that point. Yeah,
exactly. But to have our goal at Alpha Vedic, which is ALPHAVEDIC.com, and Sayer's been interviewed with us and his lovely wife Kelly, and we love them so much. And Green Med Info is our place to go for information. And we look forward to having greenmedinfo.com, alphavedic.com, whatever on this network. But it won't be like, we'll explain that in future talks, how you'll access that. But imagine that, Sayer, an immutable website that they can never take down.
Core network can already do it, and we can demonstrate it literally right now. Yeah,
that's beautiful, and that's what this is all about. So we can all finally feel like our work, our truth can actually even be there for our beautiful children. Like our very names, like our history, can be completely rewritten.
It's going to be really cool when we get to a point where we can share making the creation of like a book or music or something like that, utilizing the chain to verify the steps each way. I have some really cool ideas that I would like to see in the future. Yeah.
No, we'll have to do a number of other talks because we can go into such other inspiring areas.
This is just a base level infrastructure that's capable of literally anything and done in the correct way to literally not have any centralized authority over any part of it. And that's the key, right? And so with this infrastructure, literally anything is possible. And it's kind of insane because it's true. Literally anything is possible. And if you look at it, you can go, wow, he was not joking. It's that big of a deal. So the first step is for people to put a little bit of effort in, get it set up, look at it, come into the community. I mean, that's all you can do to start with. And from there, the world is your oyster once you realize what all you can do with this. So
beautiful. And the last thing I'll say is that it really is true that if we all create this now, it'll happen. But if we don't contribute to the growth of the network, honestly, it's really a disruptive thing that's being created, and yet it's absolutely necessary, beautiful, peaceful, and it will help liberate us. So unless we're all doing our part in creating this network, it's just not going to happen. It's just like
Right.
we could be doing the Maharishi effect, meditating, and that will have a huge effect too. But this is not that different. Like, it does take us all participating to create this new world. Cool.
Yeah.
All
Beautiful.
right. Thank you guys so much. And we
Thank
will
you.
be giving you updates, the agreement info, Telegram, etc. And just thank you for being part of this. And feel free to share it with others that you think will want to hear this information. All right. Thanks so
Definitely.
much.
Thanks, guys.